Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Duke It Out Wrestling Podcast, where I, Duke, talk about the events from the past, present, or future in the world of professional wrestling. Now, this past weekend, WrestleMania 39 happened. Now, you would think that the topic of this podcast would be reviewing WrestleMania, but I am working on a ranking video from all the matches from night 1 and night 2 from worst to best, but that's going to be a little bit longer to edit, so that should be out a little bit later in the week. And if you want just a quick short review of WrestleMania, night 1 was amazing. Night 2 was kind of awful. Not extremely awful. The triple threat IC title match was amazing, and Bianca and Asuka was good. But night 1 definitely blew night 2 out of the water. The main event was phenomenal in night 1, the Usos versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. And I'll just talk about the rest of that in my worst to best video. But right after WrestleMania, there was some huge wrestling news that finally broke, because we had been asking throughout the entire year which company was going to be buying WWE. We knew that Vince had come back to the company and he was mainly there to sell it, and it seems that there has finally been a deal made for the sale, and WWE had ended up being bought by Endeavor, and Endeavor is the parent company of the UFC. So UFC and WWE will be a part of the same company. Now, this doesn't necessarily surprise me, but it is funny because I remembered I made a We Need to Talk About video back when it was really hitting the news of Vince wanting to sell WWE, and if Disney could buy it, or if ESPN could buy it, or the Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund. But it got a deal with the UFC. It's kind of weird to say, because I never really imagined a world with WWE and UFC being a part of the same company. And honestly, there was probably a period, like even 5 years ago, if you had told me that Vince was selling WWE, I probably wouldn't have believed you. But here we are. A lot of people were wondering after they made the announcement of this merger, and that apparently Vince McMahon is going to be a chief executive of sorts. I can't remember the full position, but he's definitely not in charge for sure. Apparently Endeavor owns 51% of the company, and WWE takes care of the rest of the 49. I think they mainly wanted it to be a 51% deal, just so they could just have that little bit of the advantage, and just be stated for sure that Endeavor will mainly be getting the factor of what will mainly be getting all the final say in any business matters. And apparently, and they made a new board too, with I think 11 members, with 6 of them that are from Endeavor and 5 that are from WWE. So regardless, UFC / Endeavor is going to be holding a little bit more power when it comes to this recent ownership of WWE. Now, with my opinion on it, I think it's strange. I don't know how much it's really going to change the company. But I think we might have a scary hint of it after this recent episode of Monday Night Raw, which is going to be the main topic of this podcast. But I did want to talk about WWE being sold to Endeavor / UFC right out of the gate, because it is a very shocking situation, and it's exciting news for any wrestling fan, to be honest with you. And even if you think it could bring good or bad to the company, regardless, it's going to bring a lot more people's attention. Because if there's just going to be even news articles, and if someone just slightly sees UFC and WWE next to each other, they'll be slightly interested and hear, oh, UFC is now a part of the same company with WWE, so let's see how this all goes. It is, for the most part, a good business move, but I don't necessarily know how it's going to be when it comes to the booking and how the fans are going to react to it. But Nick Khan and Triple H had even said in an announcement before Monday Night Raw even started airing tonight that Endeavor / UFC were not going to be taking part of the creative portion of the company, and that's still going to be staying for the most part exactly the same. And Triple H tried to confirm that even more in his opening promo on Raw, where he basically had said that WWE is going to be exactly the same. It's not going anywhere. But then we proceeded to get what a lot of people have been calling the worst episode of Monday Night Raw for the entire year. And that's especially bad to say because the Raw after WrestleMania is usually one of the best events of the year, especially one of the best wrestling television episodes of the year. The Raw after WrestleMania 29 is to this day one of the most iconic shows of all time. And I remember last year's Raw after WrestleMania was a little bit disappointing, but I think this one was just a huge letdown for a bunch of people. Now, it started off decently enough. It was a promo from Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes, and Cody had offered a and Cody had offered a rematch to Roman Reigns, but of course Roman Reigns denied it since he had cheated a bunch of times to win anyway. But I'll get into that in my WrestleMania ranking video. But you can just tell from the reaction on my face that I do think Cody should have won last night, and Roman winning and getting to the 1,000 days, I get it, but I really don't know how beneficial it's going to be in the long run. But I guess we're going to have to wait and see. But there was an announcement that I think was partly a leak too, because some chunks of the show apparently got leaked before the show had aired. But even still, the show changed a bunch of different times apparently while they were trying to set the whole show up. But they made the announcement of Cody Rhodes and a mystery partner against Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa for the main event of Raw. And I'll be honest with you, when they were announcing the mystery partner thing, I was thinking it was going to be the return of Randy Orton. It would have made a lot of sense. He was in Legacy with Cody Rhodes, and there have been rumors that he is very close to being cleared or already cleared, not confirmed for sure, but instead, Brock Lesnar came out and he immediately showed that he was going to be the mystery tag team partner for Cody Rhodes, which was a very shocking visual, in all honesty. Not only do we hardly ever see Brock teaming up with anyone for even just a beatdown in the ring for 5 seconds, let alone a tag team match on Monday Night Raw. I can't even remember the last time Brock even had a match on Raw. Like I can't even comprehend when it was and who he faced. But so that was a decent enough announcement. It definitely got people intrigued to watch the rest of the show. But it did seem a little bit familiar and not in a good way. And it'll more seem like that as time goes on, because while the show kept going, a lot of people were thinking, wait, this feels like a Vince McMahon episode of Monday Night Raw. And when I was reading that, I was like, okay, I don't know if I would go that far. Let's see how everything is going. And then while I'm trying to be hopeful and trying to think in the more positive direction, I see Elias versus Omos on my screen. And so I'm just like, oh, well, shit. like what else can you really say? But I was like, okay, let's just see what keeps going from here. And Seth Rollins came out just to let everyone sing his theme song. He smiled and walked away. Super fucking confusing. No confirmation of any future feud or anything like that. That hardly made any sense. And before that, we had the segment with Rey Mysterio, and then leading into a match with Austin Theory, and Dominic came out to cost Rey the match. Theory got the win, and then Bad Bunny was at ringside announcing that he's gonna be the host for Backlash that will be in Puerto Rico, and then Dom started to get in Bad Bunny's face. Dom took a swing, Bad Bunny blocked, and Bad Bunny decked Dominic Mysterio. And what made this a little more extra interesting is that since Damian Priest was there, and there's the history with Damian Priest and Bad Bunny, since Priest was Bad Bunny's tag team partner in his debut WrestleMania match. So that had some decent story to it, and especially when Damian Priest clotheslined Bad Bunny after he kept punching Dominic. And Damian Priest sold this so freaking well. He had the look of that he wasn't really wanting to do it because he is friends with Bad Bunny, but he's fucking with his brother of the Judgment Day. So he has got to beat up Bad Bunny, and he did further by choke slamming him through the announce table, and it seemed like Bad Bunny rolled right on the back of his head. It's like it's pretty obvious Bad Bunny um didn't know how to safely sell that bump, and if he was just trying to scare the living shit out of us, I don't really know. But with Bad Bunny's talents, that wouldn't really surprise me. But this is clearly setting up a tag team match for Backlash of Ray and Bad Bunny against Dominic and Damian Priest. And I would be very entertained with it, because I know there were talks of the feud with Ray and Dominic not being concluded after their WrestleMania match. So if this is the next step for it, I'm honestly very excited. I'd be excited to see Bad Bunny back in the ring again. Seeing him team up with Rey Mysterio would be a very fun visual, and more heel heat to Dominic and to Damian Priest. And I think it could give a lot more attention to Damian Priest, and he really does deserve a lot more attention. Even though he's getting great TV time with Judgment Day, I think sometimes he could be underutilized on how great in the ring he actually is. But I'm trying to think of other segments off the top of my head from Raw. Then we got Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn making their promo, and then the Street Profits came out, challenged them to a match, and it was a pretty good match. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn got the win, but even then, it just kind of felt like a little bit of nothing. And I hate to say it, but especially when it's a match with Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and the Street Profits, but it just didn't seem like it had as much of a purpose. And I'm just going to I'll just look through on my phone, just GIFs of other events that happened in the show, because I remember there was also the face-off between Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley. And it seems like that's going to be setting up a champion versus champion match at Backlash, potentially. If it's a title unification match, I really would not want to see it. We don't need to combine two belts. Again, Roman's already doing it. The Usos had done it, and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are holding on to both tag team titles as well currently. So no need for another superstar holding on to two belts. But I would be interested in seeing a match between the two. I feel like it should probably be more saved up for a later event, since they already do the champion versus champion matches at Survivor Series anyway. And they should probably lean more focus onto an actual feud for the titles. Because I know Bianca's been champion for a year, and she's starting to slowly run out of opponents. But I think a rematch with Asuka would be very intriguing, especially if you want Asuka to go even further heel. But I just feel like having Bianca and Rhea fight each other would just be kind of a waste. Especially because that could be a lot more of a better developed feud somewhere down the line when they're on the same brand, and you don't have to keep on having to do this crap of people from separate brands going on to Raw or something like that. It just takes me back to the late 2011, 2012 days, and it's not great times. And making sure there wasn't anything else big from the show that I didn't forget, even though it'd be pretty easy to. This show was pretty forgettable. And then there was, and right after the Bianca and Rhea segment, there was a tag team match. Winner getting a women's tag team title shot, when there was already the women's tag team showcase match that was won by Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. So it kind of would seem like they would automatically be next in line for the titles. Then Liv and Raquel lost, so they were still getting an opportunity. It just didn't make a lot of sense. And I will talk about this mainly because this was probably the only good segment that I can really think of from this episode of Raw, and that was the return of Matt Riddle. It wasn't anything big, since it was just Miz cutting a promo, and he was saying, "I'm sick. I'm not doing any more surprises. No Pat McAfee. No Shane getting his fucking quad torn." But then Matt Riddle came out, made his return. The crowd made a huge pop for him. It was probably the biggest crowd reaction of the entire event, and I think it's great to see him back. He attacked the Miz. It was really fun. When Miz was starting to beat up on Matt Riddle at first, people were starting to chant Randy for a second, but then I think people realized really quickly that he wasn't going to be coming out, and Matt Riddle was backing on the attack. And I'm excited to see what he's going to do. I'm excited to see that he's back and happy and healthy. After he was in rehab for a while, and He was dealing with some other personal issues, and I'm really glad to see him back in the ring. And if those rumors are true of Randy Orton also being cleared pretty soon, I would love to see a reunion of RK Bro. Please and thank you. But then we got to the main event of the tag team match of Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. Not Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. The tag team match of Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa against Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar. Now, at first I was like, I really didn't know what I was expecting from this main event. And honestly, when there were the mentions of this is a Vince McMahon Raw, has Vince McMahon written all over the show, I really should have seen coming that Brock was just going to turn on Cody and beat the shit out of him for the rest of the fucking show. But, oh my God. Okay. When Cody lost at WrestleMania, I was thinking, all right, I wouldn't have made that decision. Cody definitely should have won. The way the crowd was reacting near the end of their WrestleMania match, that was a new top babyface right there. And if he had won, that pop would have been insane. And it's not like that can't happen further down the line, but it just seemed like that was the right place and the right time. And then he lost, so we're thinking, okay, maybe they're really building up to something. But now, after getting decimated by Brock Lesnar, it can seem like it's a burial of Cody Rhodes. And I don't think it's to those kind of extents. Honestly, it's probably just going to be leading up to a match between Cody and Brock at Backlash, and hopefully Cody would win that. But it is very, very off. It is a very off feeling. And especially since it's a Raw after WrestleMania. Usually there is so much energy, there's so much adrenaline and excitement for the future after those episodes of Raw, and I just felt empty. I didn't feel any excitement, maybe just confusion. And yeah, sometimes confusion could be intrigue, but it wasn't really that either. I was just confused. I could probably, if there was a drinking game of how many times I just said what the fuck throughout the show, I would be passed out in my bed right now and be at the risk of alcohol poisoning. So this is a real letdown, especially when WrestleMania Night 1 started so amazing. It was a near perfect show. And then Night 2 had some hiccups, wasn't awful, but definitely compared to Night 1, it was very, very rough. And now we get this new era of now Endeavor owns WWE. I don't think that whole process probably went into the show process that instantaneously, and then Triple H saying, "Oh yeah, we're not going anywhere," but then it turning back into the pacing of an episode of Raw from May of 2019. And I am pretty concerned. I really hope they can get some storylines balanced up again over the next couple of weeks, but it's seeming like this sale could make WWE suffer a bit, or if they realize some of these hiccups that they're making early on, they just immediately want to make change instantaneously. But I am very confused, not necessarily excited, because I really don't have the highest of faith, because I also am scared that this could just turn into back into disastrous television from WWE, like 2015 levels of bad. So I really don't hope it goes there, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. So that was another episode of the Duke It Out Wrestling Podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and please make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, and duke out your opinions below in the comments.